Hello everyone, this is General Hand Grenade. Welcome to my war room in Prince George, British Columbia. In today's video, what we're going to do is we're going to explore the scenarios for East versus West Operation Pluto. Now Operation Pluto is a bit of a standalone one compared to the other scenarios. In Operation Pluto, it begins in July of 1946, whereas all the other ones started at the end of the Second World War. So this one starts like a year afterwards. And what happens is the Russians are the aggressors. It's the Russians who decided, ahistorically, to attack the Western Allies. Like they didn't know that there was going to be, nobody at that time knew that there was going to be a Cold War that would ensue, a nuclear arms race or anything like that. But it could have went either way. Like there was a lot of tensions going on in Europe over there between the Western Allies and the Russians. They're fighting over the spoils of war and everything. It never really actually came to bullets and everything. But it could have. And so that's what we're exploring with the East versus West scenarios, right? And this one is where the Russians are the aggressors. So the situation is, it says here, between 1945 and July of 1946, the historical outcomes of the Potsdam Conference are well into effect. The USSR controlled the Baltic states, Poland, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, Bulgaria, and Romania, and set up a puppet communist government in Poland. Germany, Berlin, Austria, and Vienna were each to be divided into 4 occupation zones. The scenario begins in July of 1946. So you can't really play this game at the end of your game. Like you play a game in 1936 to 1945, you can't really carry it on into this scenario, Operation Pluto, because basically what happened was it was a year after the war, so a lot of the Americans went back home, right, to start families and stuff like that's where the baby boomers came from, right? And so there's a lot fewer of the Western Allies in Europe than there was at the end of the war. So that's probably why the Russians thought that they could get away with it a year later. Whereas Operation Unthinkable, would be right at the end of the war when there were still lots of Western Allies in there. Then they decided instead to attack the Russians. But in this one here, the Russians get the first punch. So let's explore this. Now, there's a few different ways you can win. There's major victories and minor victories. So let's just take a look at the teams first. Now, I've got up here the order of play. The one that's missing there is the CCP. So it's the Russians and the CCP. Although they're allies, they don't really have anything to do with each other in this game because the Chinese Civil War is going on and nobody can take part in the Chinese Civil War down here. Like you can't fly across there, you can't do anything. It's just for the KMT versus the CCP. There's no Lend-Lease happening, no nothing. So really the KMT and the CCP are not allies of anybody until the Civil War ends, if it ends during the game, right? So if it ends during the game, then the winning side will join, the KMT would join the Allies, or the CCP would join the Russians. And then everybody else, you see Russia goes first, and then America, everybody else on there is on the other side. So basically it's Russia versus the world, right? So the Americans will go next, and then the British, and then the French, and then the Italians. And yes, the Italians down here, they are on the side of the Allies now. And then the FEC, the ANZAC, and then at the very end you see the KMT there. So how you achieve a victory in that, let me just set this down over here. So an Allied major victory is if they liberate Germany, Poland, Balkan, and Baltic states. So basically, you see this here, let me just... I don't know if I can wiggle this card here and hold my camera. So you see this thing right here? Basically, if you kick the Russians off of this thing here, you achieve a major victory. Okay? Now, an Allied minor victory would be if you liberate Germany, Poland, and the Balkan states. So you take it, you eliminate everybody off that card except for this, and this. Then that would be a minor victory there. if you couldn't get those three, but you got all the other ones. So that would be Allied victories. Now, a Soviet major victory would be if they eject the Allies from the European continent. So that's pretty self-explanatory, right? You just get rid of all the blue and green and tan guys out of Europe. And that's a major victory for the Russians. A minor victory for the Russians would be if they retained Berlin and East Germany, Poland, Baltic, and Balkan states. So if you weren't able to liberate all those over there, then that would be a minor victory for the Russians. So that's how you win the game. Now there's I told you who's on whose side, but there's a couple other things involved here. There's a civil war, I mentioned that. So Korea, both the USSR and the US occupy Korea, and they get one IPP each, but nothing happens in there. Like you don't fight each other or anything. You just you don't do anything. It's basically just a standoff. But at the end of the Civil War, the CCP could go in there, I believe. Yeah, at the end of the Civil War, the USSR unit are converted to CCP. So then CCP could take out Korea if it wanted. So then one other thing, Greece, Finland, Sweden, Spain, and Turkey were all concerned about Soviet expansionism and the spread of communism into Europe and Asia. They are neutral, but each of them may individually join the Allies through diplomatic means. They will all automatically join the Allies if any one of them are attacked while neutral, or if the USSR captures Paris. So you get that? So if the USSR captured Paris, then all of those nations that I mentioned there, Greece and Finland, Sweden, Spain, and Turkey, will all join the Allies. And there's quite a bit of stuff there for them, right? So Russia better make sure that that they want to. Or take over them diplomatically on the diplomatic chart up there, right? And then the last thing is Poland, Hungary, Romania, and Bulgaria would consider an invasion by the Allies as a liberation and become Great Britain controlled once their capital is in Allied possession. Yeah, so that's it. Now, the Russians get the first shot here, right? And there's a thing about a surprise attack on the first turn. So what it is you roll a six-sided die, and I've got it here. We're going to do it right here, right now. So if I roll a 1 to 4, then all Russian units, all of them, on the first round of combat are +1. On the first round, on the first turn are +1. Let me just look at that. I think it's the first turn, not the first round. I want to make sure though. Yeah, on the first turn. So all rounds of combat on the first turn. So 1 to 4, the Russians are going to get +1 on everything they do, like all their attacks, right? And then if it's a 5 or a 6, then not only will the Russians get a +1, but all of the defenders, the people that they're fighting against, are going to be -1. So that's a complete surprise. That's a total surprise, right? The first one's called a tactical surprise, 1 to 4, and the last one's called a total surprise. So let's roll that and see what happens, okay? This you'd think would be pretty big. 6, so total surprise. So you know what that means, right? I would think anyway. Like I'm looking at this set. I've had this set up for about a week now. I'm thinking total surprise here. Russia, it might as well just haul off and kick all of the allies right in the mummy daddy button as hard as they can with their steel-toed boots on. Like everybody that can attack should attack, right? I mean, why not? Go and take out as many guys as you can while you're +1 and they're -1. Like for one thing, Russia has 22 submarines in the opening setup. So why wouldn't you use all 22 of them to go after as many boats as you could? And all that Russian Air Force there. Go after as many guys as you can, right? Everybody's +1. So that's what I'm going to try to do. And when I make this video, what I'll do is I will take the Russian turn because it's a big turn, right? you would think it would take an awful lot to do the Russian turn. So I'm going to take the Russian turn, and then I'm going to film and stop and show you what happened, because I'm sure you're probably curious as to what happens after that turn as well, right? What it looks like and everything. And then I'll take everybody else's turn. And then at the end of the round, I'll show you again. Like I'll stop and I'll do some more filming and show you, okay, so this is how these guys recovered, right? This is what they did, and go from there. Some of the things that other things that you need to know, like technology. We're playing version 2 of this game, right? Version 2 of East versus West, and so we're doing version 2 technology. Even though I got the version 3 chart up there, but there's none of the technologies down at the bottom anyway. Like number 13 there should say improved shipyards, and nobody has any of that anyway. So if somebody does decide to go for that one, then I'll just, I know it's improved shipyards. But as you can see, there's a lot of technologies that are already had on there, right? And there's technologies that are partially developed. So I'm going to need to be mindful of that. Like it's the Russian turn. They're almost got advanced mechs. They're halfway to heavy bombers. They're halfway to long range aircraft. Halfway to improve factories. Like I'll take a quick look at that and see if any of those things are going to help them. Obviously long range aircraft would help anybody. But the other thing I gotta remember, I'm playing this by myself. It's not as easy when you're playing it by yourself. If you've ever done that, you know what I'm talking about. There's a lot to remember here. So I gotta remember that there's the build queue over here. And so these units are already started. Like there's a Russian carrier here, and there's a Russian battleship here. The Russian battleship is only needs one more payment, right? There's a Russian cruiser here. So these things I don't want to forget about either. And then there's also the technology, the new technology, the atomic bomb specifically. The Russians have 3 of the 4 elements. Like they have the heavy water here. They have the uranium, and they also have the research facility. So all they need now is a nuclear reactor. So if I was to build a nuclear reactor on the first turn, then on the second turn, then the Russians would be able to build a nuclear bomb. So these are the kinds of considerations that I'm looking at here with Russia. I'm looking at attacking as much as I can and improving my technology, seeing what I need on that build chart, and what can I do to get the bomb. Anyway, I'll come back at the end of the Russian turn and show you how that all turned out. Okay, so I got my purchases all made for the Russians, and I've got my attack moves made. I thought you might want to see it but before I start rolling, I'll just go over a couple of minutes of what I've done here, because it's such a huge turn. It's kind of like the Germany turn when they take out France for the first time, like when they go after Paris. It takes a long time to do it because you got a lot of stuff on the board. I could see this being a lot of fun in that there are so many different options. Like it took me quite a while to take this turn because I thought, well, I could go here with these subs, I could go here, I could go here, with 22 subs, just deciding where the subs were going to go to, for maximum effect, that took something. One of the things though that I got a little bit wrong when I was telling you about the tactical surprise and the total surprise. So if it would have been a tactical surprise where it was 1 to 4, the other thing was that defending units lose first strike. So it's total surprise. And so like I said, all attacking units get +1, all defending units get -1. It says defending aircraft may not scramble, and defending units lose first strike this turn. So that makes sense to me because I was thinking about, okay, as I was going, should I put the planes on combat air patrol? Like, could these guys come out and and help out these boats and everything? Well, they can't really, because they don't even know that that they're going to be at war with the Russians. The Russians just said, hey, they just yelled out, "World Star!" and they started fighting, right? What the hell? It's a total surprise, right? So of course you can't put anything on combat air patrol or scramble or anything like that because you did not know it was coming, right? Anyway, let me just show you what's happened here. So I purchased units, and that took a while because they started with their bonus with $82. So they bought a MiG fighter that was 14. Uh, hang on a second. Yeah, 14, because it's 12 plus 2. And they bought, geez, I can't remember, a whole bunch of dudes there anyway. I think 6 dudes or something. They bought a medium armor. They got a couple of Katyushas there. They paid off these boats, and plus they moved the carrier along one. But these ones were only one away. They bought a nuclear reactor. And they only rolled one dice for their technology, and they managed to get they rolled a 6, so they got advanced mechanized infantry, so they bought 2 of those. And also they did try to do some influencing over here. They rolled 4 dice. They rolled for what was it, Argentina up here, and they missed, and Brazil they missed, and I can't remember the other one, but anyway, they missed that one. But the one they did get, it was they were already along there, and they got Mongolia. I had to put it down a bit because this is the magnetic stuff, right? This chart's a little bit too big. I'm gonna have to get something else to stick that chart to. Anyway, so that's what I bought, and that's what I did diplomatically, and I did move the advanced artillery one. And what else? Okay, so this attack here is this one right here. I figured I'd do the one that was the most crunched in here, right? So you can see here and here, they don't have to go across a river. There's no mountains or anything like that. There's all the American pieces that were in there. And then these pieces, for the most part, came from those 2 territories. There was a couple of planes that came from elsewhere. But you can see, though, like these guys have moved down one, right? Because it's the surprise strike, and these guys have all moved up one. So that's going to be a pretty big slaughter. And then these guys here attacked the British in here. That's going to be a bit closer fight, I think, although still, though, with the plus and minus there, that it's still going to be a big win. These guys here, there were some subs out here. They came in to attack those guys, and a lot of subs around here came to attack these guys in here, along with some boats. And if that's successful, then the guys that were out here on transports are going to come across, and they're going to take Denmark, along with this transport here, dropping these guys off. So these guys are hoping to get dropped off after these boats get taken out. These guys moved up to Austria. There's 3 dudes in a factory in there, so they're hoping to take that out. And then these guys went to northern Italy there, or Turin. I mean, yeah, nice, yeah, okay. So Turin, but that's not even going to be mountain. Like it's only mountainous in Yugoslavia, I believe. Let me see here. Yeah, so there's no mountains in there either. No rivers. So yeah, it's going to be a pretty easy attack for them over here on this side. Everybody else that you see that hasn't moved, that's because they couldn't reach anybody. Like, you have to play the rules. So with Turkey being neutral, I couldn't get out, right? These guys are stuck inside here, so I'm going to use these guys for bombardment shots on Denmark there, if because these guys are going too, right? So then on the other side of the board, you don't have nearly as many boats as you would expect for the Russians. Like, there was 4 subs out here, but I brought all 4 of those subs into here and took the subs that were here and a destroyer down there to take on those American boats right there. Like, there's so many different options, right? Could have went after these boats here, but really only 2 of the subs could reach those boats over there, so that would have been a problem, right? Like, they got some pretty heavy hitters in there. They got some planes and everything. So I was going to take that, like, the guaranteed hits. Oh, the other thing, here's Mongolia. I showed you that. I forgot to put the income up on that, but Mongolia is worth 2 IPP, so I'm going to have to adjust the income. So the Russians did get that, and they got the militia and the cavalry. So anyway, that's what it looks like here. I'm going to roll all this up, and I'll be back. Wow, talk about a kick to the groin. When you're rolling +1 and -1, and the other guys are losing their first strike, on their artillery and stuff. Holy crap. Look at the casualties here. This is without the chips. Those are the Allied casualties. There's probably almost twice as much as that because of chips, right? You can see it looks a lot cleaner in Europe here now. It's a little easier to see the borders and stuff. The only slight worry that these guys had, the Russians had when they were rolling, was here they had to cross a river because it goes from roundel to roundel. So they were -1, but they were +1 anyway, so it was even for them. And then here they had to attack into the mountains, so they were even there as well because of the plus and the minus for that. But holy crap, like they go through and hardly lose anything because like they weren't necessarily rolling better. It's just it was easier for them to roll, right? So you look, they've got 2 subs left here, so they lost 2. They've got a sub left here, so they lost 3 subs there. The British defended here pretty well. Oh, geez, I took off my subs here. There should be subs right there. Hang on a sec. What did they lose there? I think they lost 4, so they should have 2 subs left there. There was a whole bunch of stuff here, and I took off the wrong pile of stuff. So anyway, there we go. A couple of subs left there as well. And then these boats, of course, they couldn't even move. They couldn't get out of there. But they were able to place the cruiser and the battleship. You see this guy here, this is my marker. Because there's an air base there, I figured why not land the planes there, right? So there's all these planes. Plus there's a major factory there, so there was lots of ground units there. So it was pretty darn packed in there. Like they're all spilling out everywhere, right? So I had to do that. Looks like while I was doing that, I moved this thing around. So let me just move it back here. There we go. Yeah, it's a shame that this thing moves around slightly, but I mean, you could, if you're careful like I have been, it's just slightly, like you've seen how I fixed it, right? What you don't want to do is just go plowing into it with dice or something, right? And knock everything everywhere. But anyway, they were successful on all of their attacks. So, they've taken northern Italy, they've taken Austria. I don't remember what this one's called. They took that out. They took this out. So 2 more German territories, which means another +8 on their income, bonus income, right? So they actually collected 20 bonus because they started with 12, right? So 8 more is 20. But they collected a total of $107. So that's $25 more than they did. They placed their nuclear reactor back here in Ural. They placed their late jet here, and then various parts around the board, especially as forward as they could. Like they couldn't place anything up here. I didn't change the factories because I ran out of factories. I've got more on order, but I wasn't prepared to play this game, right? I had a few extras. So over here, they lost 3 subs in the water, and that was it. And then all the planes flew back and everything. So they moved this late war jet. It was in Ural. They moved it over here. I figured I didn't need too much stuff over here to begin with because the Americans only have 1 transport in the water over here. So it's going to take them a while to threaten the coast over here, right? Like they could bring some dudes up right now if they wanted, but 2 dudes aren't going to hurt me, right? As far as me being the Russian player, like I'm also the American player too. So anyway, then the Russians only have 1 boat on the queue here, but you can see the Americans are next, and they've got a cruiser there, and they've got the fleet carrier that they'll probably pick up this turn. And nothing happened down here because the Russians didn't have any units down here. So just a look at Europe from this side now. The only thing, major thing that the Russians lost was a medium bomber because the Allies hit, I think it was a jet fighter hit that was sitting on an aircraft carrier on the first round. And so when a fighter hits on the first round, you choose an air casualty, right? So that's the only thing of consequence that the Russians lost was 1 medium bomber. Otherwise, every bit of the rest of their air force is intact. And in fact, they replaced that medium bomber with a late war jet there. So that's even an upgrade, right? But man, they managed to, with their medium bombers and with their tactical bombers, they even had a few targeted hits. So they were able to take out the American heavy tanks that way. the heavy tanks didn't get many shots against them, right? So it'll be interesting now. Like, I've been focused on the Russians for days now, wondering what I would do if I was the Russians first. So now I'm going to have to change my thinking. Like, you look at it and the Russians are overwhelming now, but now everybody else gets to go. So we'll see what it looks like after that, right? Because their incomes aren't as low as they are in 36. Like, the Italians are down on their income, but they still have more money than that because they just went down. The Russians are up there, the British and the FEC are up there, that like they all had bonus income as well. I took everybody's bonuses because I figured, it's at the end of the war, and they would have collected those bonuses, right? So I collected everybody's bonus on the first round. Normally you wouldn't on the first round if you were starting the game, but they listed it on the cards as far as the setup charts. So I figured that meant, okay, you should take it on the first round because they're listing it. Otherwise, why would you even bother listing it? Like, you can see on the reference cards what you're supposed to get, so why would you list it on the setup cards unless they wanted you to take them, right? So I took them, Robert. My buddy Robert Hatcher. I hope you're enjoying watching me fumble around here, because I know you've played this a bunch of times. So now it's my turn to fumble my way through it. Anyway, so up next is the rest of the world. All right, now I am through one full round. So we're going into January of 1947. As you can see here in the middle, let me just grab my pointer here. The Allies weren't able to make any headway whatsoever against the Russians in here. They're just too strong. They couldn't even try. If you remember at the start of the video, I was telling you what Russia needed for a major victory. They need to kick all the Allies off the continent of Europe. And so basically what's happening then is, like buying a lot of transports over here, moving the Navy up, and consolidating the British Navy over here. I got the French Navy and the Italian Navy down there. I tell you one thing that really screwed the Italians up. This was their only factory here, and the Russians have it. They were able to withstand an assault from the Italians here, held on to that factory, and Rome doesn't have a factory. So consequently, I've bought a factory for Rome. Otherwise, what am I going to do? Just buy a militia for them all game? And they're not going to last very long either, right? It took 2 tries. The Americans came in first, and then the French came in to take Yugoslavia. I'm trying to draw them away, right? Draw as many units away as I can, because I know there's not much in behind them here. They're going to have to come from the front lines to go backwards, because there just isn't enough behind to go up there. Plus, the British have the inside track for getting Greece. I think they only need to roll once to get Greece, and if that happens, then like these guys are going to have to be prepared down there, right? But yeah, like it looks a lot better for the Allies now, because it really didn't look good after the Russian turn. But that's to be expected. I mean, Russia was so powerful to start off with, and then the Allies have got so many countries, right? So I'd say the Russians are still doing a bit better, but it's hard to know, right? Because I haven't played this before. All I can see here when I'm looking at strategy, without the Japanese and the Germans in the game, it really changes what you need to do, right? Like the Allies, they don't need to worry about Italy because they're on their side. And Russia replaces Germany over here, so that's a bother. But over here on this side, I mean, they have Japan, right? The Americans are sitting on Japan there, and really there's not much threat to this side of the board. Like the Americans have enough right now. I didn't even purchase anything on this side of the board for the Americans. The Americans have enough right now to move over there and to take out what's left of the Russian fleet here. The British went down and took out those 2 boats down in the Philippines there. And, like Anzac has got some stuff. So what does Anzac do this game, right? Because there's no Japan to attack. I don't see the point in going too hard at trying to make a headway into the Far East in Russia here, because you're so far away from getting to Moscow, or to anything really. Like it's not a long game. It's not like it's going to be an 18 turn game like the 36 to 45 version, right? Like I'm thinking it's what, 5, 6, 7 turns in this game, and that'll be it, right? If that. It depends on how fast the Russians can move through Western Europe, or how fast the Allies can push into Eastern Europe, right? So I don't see the point in going there. I just see keeping the Russians bottled up over here, and maybe put some pressure on. Like if you can, sure, go ahead and take Vladivostok there, right? Otherwise, just make sure that the Russians aren't getting out of there, right? They're not getting out of there and going down to Anzac or something. So this, like with the Chinese Civil War and the Russians not able to participate, they're going to have to come around this side of China, right? If they want to do any damage to the FEC, or to Anzac for that matter, right? First of all, they're going to need Turkey out of the way there in order to get their fleet out of there if they want to move out into the Mediterranean. But then even if they do move to the Mediterranean, like there's a ton of boats there. The Allies must have 2 or 3 to 1, maybe even more than that, when you look at how many boats that they have on the board compared to the Russians. So the Navy far outweighs the Allies. The Russians are going to have to make it a ground game, I think, for their win, right? So I think what the Allies would like to do, or they would like to be able to influence either Afghanistan or Iran, so that they've got a route into Russia, so that they can put some pressure on the Russians, right? Right here, you look, there's actually a little strip of Afghanistan in there. They made that, I think, so that you couldn't go from the FEC straight into Russia, right? Like you'd have to go through Afghanistan. I mean, you could pay the $10 and attack Afghanistan if you want, but I think they've got the inside track anyway to try to influence Iran, right? So they might go that route, and who knows, like if the Russians want to attack, because there's not much down here, right? The Russians can push right through down here. Then of course that opens it up, right? Like if they attack Iran, then the Allies can go into Iran no problem without a penalty. But I can't see the point in hanging on to boats or anything down here, right? Like these guys, if they didn't have those boats to take out, and once those boats are gone, all these boats are going to leave and they're going to go up this way. And if there's no boats left in the Mediterranean, then they're just going to keep going around up to Great Britain there. I mean, why not? I had a couple boats down here. They're on their way over here. Any boats that I had over here, they're on their way over there. These guys here are enough to keep them busy. Like I can even take off with the American boats. One of the major things that happened in that turn was the Americans were able to influence Spain and Finland as well. I forgot that when I was on that side of the board up there. Although Finland, there's not much there, and there's only one cruiser in the water, so the Russians can make short work of that cruiser. The Americans will just be a small pain in the side of the Russians. They're going to have to build up over there and shift some of their forces over there to stop the Americans. But there's no industrial complex up there, no factory production for the Americans as of yet. And of course, it would take at least 2 turns even just to build a small factory. So the Americans aren't that much of a threat up there, although they are dragging them away. What would be more of a threat, it would be if they were able to influence Sweden as well. They only need 1 dice roll for Sweden. And so if they would have done that, then I would have said that they got the major inside track now to go into Russia, because they'd have Finland, Sweden, and down here in Spain. I think that, like when they say you gotta take out Europe, I think that also means Spain as well, right? I don't think they mean stop here. I should ask Bob about that though. For the major victory, does that include Spain and Portugal and Gibraltar? Because those really are part of Europe, right? So that would make it a lot tougher for them, right? Because the Americans have already got a factory over here now, right? And um, this is version 2, though, so all they can do is build small minor factories. There's no they can't build a major or anything like that. I mean, they couldn't do it in version 3 either. But anyway, it's going to be tough. They also tried to influence down here the Americans, and they weren't successful. I think they tried the Argentinians and the Brazilians, and they didn't get it. But anyway, that's basically what's going on here. Is that the Great Britain there is bracing for an assault, because there is enough boats over there and enough transports that the Russians could decide, you know what, I'm going to lose all these boats anyway, let's go now. And they could go and do their own form of sea lion, right? There's not as much there as it looks. There's a lot of planes there, but there's not as much there to defend as it looks. The Russians have the bomb, although they haven't purchased one yet. But the Americans already had the technology before the game started, so they've purchased an atomic bomb. So that could come into play on round 2 here, because you can see the Americans have a heavy bomber and a jet bomber on London there. And really, when you think about it, if the Russians were going to assault London, assault Great Britain, why not go after London, try to take those bombers out, and then the Americans have nothing to deliver the atomic bomb. I guess they have this heavy bomber over here, but I mean, they're not going. I guess that, yeah, they could reach this spot over here, but still, like that's a long sight from making the Russians submit or anything, right? Like if it was up to me, I'd want to drop it right where this thing is here, this little flag there, because that is that card over there. That would be a lot of dice to roll, wouldn't it? If you're dropping out a bomb. So the Russians are going to have to be mindful of that now, that the Americans have a bomb that can be dropped this turn. Try not to leave all of your eggs in one basket, right? Like all of your stuff in one territory. You're going to have to spread things out so that, like if there's 15 things in one territory, that's where they're dropping the bomb, right? Getting 15 dice. But if you spread those 15 things out over 4 territories, well, then that's not such a damage, so anyway, it's a lot of rethinking on how to play this game with the nuclear technology, with the absence of Germany and Japan. And I think it's going to be interesting also when I try the Axis split out, because that's going to make a whole different dynamic. And this game here, I believe it's going to be a lot like the other one, Operation Unthinkable, except I don't think that Japan, unless you wipe Japan out during the regular game, I think that Japan hasn't surrendered yet in that game, right? And there might even still be some Germans left. And then the Allies are going to get the first punch at the Russians. But basically, it'll be the same type of dynamic as what we have going on here, although the Russians are being the aggressors in this one. But anyway, really, really interesting. I'm really enjoying this game. Just it's something different, regardless of whether you play Global War or Axis and Allies or War Room or any other type of World War II game, it's always the same teams, right? It's always the same countries going against each other, and so the strategies change a little bit depending on what version of what game you're playing and things like that. But it's basically the same game, though, right? You're going after Moscow, or if you're the Germans, or you're doing this or that. But this is something completely different, something I'm totally not used to, and so it's taking me all day just to play one turn. For one thing, there's so many units on the board to begin with. It takes you that long to get them in the place where you want them to be, and You know, it's like the turns will go faster after the second or third turn, right? But it takes you a while to get things going. What I did with China, um, like on the board there, it goes Italy, then the CCP, then FEC, then Anzac, and then KMT. I just played China together. Like I played the CCP, and then once that was done and the partisans were on the board, then I played the KMT and put the partisans on the board, and then then I was done with China, right? Um, I found that to be a lot easier, right? Okay, I'm going to put my focus on China because I don't need to focus it anywhere else. It doesn't matter what happens in China for what's going on anywhere else. So it was just easy enough for me to do that. I could see why you would put them apart like that, though, if there was more than one player, two or three players or four players even, because that gives the person, the KMT, chance to digest what the CCP has done and get their stuff ready and get ready to go and everything. But if you're doing this by yourself, like I'm doing it just makes more sense to have them go back to back so that you can forget about the rest of the game, just play a Chinese Civil War and then put that away and then go back to the rest of the game again, right? One of the things also that I'm finding is different is that the UK goes way over there, and then Anzac and FEC go much later, and so that it's kind of weird that way because you're used to in Global War you're used to playing them all together, right? Where they're all going together. So like I don't know how that's gonna work, right? Because these guys, they're not a different color than the British, right? If they were a different color, painted a different color than the British, the UK, then it would be easy to separate them. But like I could move over here with the FEC, and then on the British turn move again, right? So it just kind of I'm not sure that that's the right way to do it. I think that you should keep the British all together like they were before. I'll talk with Bob about that and see what he thinks. There could be a reason why he's done it this way. I don't know. But anyway, that's what I feel anyway is that the UK player could exploit that by basically taking a double dip like that. Like I was thinking, geez, I should do some influencing now with Anzac and FEC up there, right? I'd already done it with the UK, so why not do it with these guys now because their turn is separate? But then I thought that's not really fair, right? That's kind of like double dipping as well, where they're going for the same things that the UK went for, and so that's not really allowed to do that. But yet they share the same diplomacy and they share the same technology, right? So why wouldn't their turns be the same? To me, that would make sense. Anyway, that's all I got for you here. I tell you, these things sure came in handy on that first Russian turn there. Yeah. Anyway, so that's the way it's going in the war room. I'll get back at this tomorrow. Okay, so it's the next day here, and I've been sitting here for a while, pondering what to do as the Russian player, and it's a big job because like you're half the game, right? The Allies are half the game, and the Russians are half the game, and so there's a lot to look at, and there's a lot of space to cover, a lot of territory to protect, and everything, and but you had a lot of money. Like I had 107 IPP to spend, and the Russians have developed the technology to build a bomb. But then I wondered, okay, now is that the best use of my money at this time? Because as you look at the Allies over here, there's not many places where they're so stacked up. Like there's only 2 guys here, there's only 4 guys here, like there's a few guys in Paris. There's not many places where I could drop the bomb that's within reach of my strategic bomber. My strategic bomber is sitting in this territory right here. He's on the card with this thing. So, I mean, there's this territory, London, that he could reach and get back. But, uh, so you add up the amount, like I probably, like they're in ground units here, there's 2, 4, 5 ground units. And that's half of the units that are in there. Probably not going to get more than 5. Like it would be a pretty lucky roll to get 5 4s, right? And so I'm not going to get into the planes when it comes to dropping that bomb. I am going to damage one of the facilities, and that's a good thing. Uh, Probably would damage the major factory there, force the British to pay it back down again. So that would be good. But I'm wondering if that's the best use of my money. Because when you look at what the Russians have here, here, I'll just show you the card over here. So there's quite a bit of planes and everything. Aside from the strategic bomber, the Russians have 14 planes over in Europe. So that's pretty massive. And then they've got these ground units. And then you look up here, they've got lots of, oops, sorry about that. I got lots of ground units here and here and here. So lots to do. I've got, I can blitz with them and everything. So the attack looks good. Like I could blitz to here, I could blitz to here. There's not much that they can do about it. Like the British can come in on, I think, 4 transports. 1, 2, 3, 4 transports. So 4 transports were the guys that could come in and hit me. After I've taken a shot and gotten most of Europe down. But then I look in behind that, like in behind this line here, where all these guys are. So then there's these guys here, which I showed you on the card back there. But other than that, like there's only a couple of dudes here, and then these things back here, and then nothing back here, because I've moved everything up back here, right? And we've got the Americans over here now, remember? And the American Navy and the British Navy could come up here as well, come around me. So I'm going to need ground units, right? I'm going to need them down in here to replace the guys that I'm going forward with. I've got all these factories in the mid-range here that are going to need to move up. And then I've got all these factories back here that are going to need to move up to here to be there next time. And then also they're going to need to come up and either attack Finland eventually or defend themselves. There's nothing on any of these factories back here. Plus I'm going to need to protect my nuclear technology back there. And then there's also the FEC. Now I talked about that in my last segment there. How, you know, like what is the FEC going to do? And the Anzac, there's nothing for them to do over there, right? So they would probably want to push up into here, right? Into these places. So I'm going to need to start getting some stuff on the factories here to move back to these places to defend against the FEC. I think that's okay for now over there. Like I can move 1 or 2 dudes over into Vladivostok and the area over on the west or the east coast there to keep the Americans at bay. I'm not too worried about that over there, but I am worried about this down here. Definitely, as the Russians, I don't want to take Afghanistan or Iraq or Iran, because then that gives them a path on the way in. They don't have to pay that 10 IPP penalty to come into that territory and then to attack Russia. But I do need to amass on the border here, because then they're going to have to pay the 10 to get through, and then that opens up that area of Russia. So if I wait till the last minute, I'm not going to get guys down there fast enough, right? So rather than buying a nuclear bomb this turn, this is what I'm getting at, all this long build up here. I thought that maybe what I should do with all that money is buy all ground units, because I've got 14 planes in Europe, as I said. The eastern border is fine. The southern border is fine for now. But I'm going to need to start moving things out for my factory production. At first I was salivating because, I got a major factory here and here and here. But then I remembered, the rules. Those are not major factories. Those are minor factories for the Russians. And I didn't bother replacing them because they revert back to what they're supposed to be if they were taken back. So I just it would be easy for me just to leave these on here as captured factories and to know that I only get to put one thing on each of them. So I'm not going to be able to put much up here, but I've got tons of factories, right? I've got 1, 2, 3, there's another one here, 4, 5, 6, and then there's one here, 7, 8. So there's 8 things I can put on. Then this thing I can put 5 of them on, and I'm definitely going to put 5 of them on here. Then I've got these 2 back here, and then I've got these ones back here, right? In this area back here, the core. And then, probably want to put one either over there or over there, right? So I've got, I could buy just a ton of small ground units to place around, and then that will give me the protection that I need in the back there, and have units coming up to the front, and then build a bomb next turn. I thought, so anyway, 19 infantry, 8 advanced artillery, and then 3 tanks. These 3 tanks will be my fast movers from the back, right? So, but when you consider though that I have all those planes there, that's the offense that I need, right? So dudes and planes, like that's gonna be a pretty good offense. I've still got lots of heavy hitters in there. There's no way the Allies are going to be able to take them all out this turn, because even after they attack and move up closer, then there's not much of the Allies in behind that, right? The Americans are not across the water yet. They've got 1 transport on this side of the water, and that's it. There's nothing more to come up to Yugoslavia with, I don't think. There just isn't anything to attack them with. Like, if they manage to use diplomacy and get Turkey and Greece on their side this turn, then that could be a game changer, right? But I do think that I'm going to need something like that this turn. I think this would be more valuable than the nuclear weapon at this time. Anyway, we'll see how that works out for me. Okay, so everything came out just about how I said that I wanted it to, because there wasn't a lot of attacks. I think there was only 4 territories to attack. So I didn't do a lot of attacks. It was mostly just maneuvering, right? Like I've got, I didn't bolster this at all, but I did bolster this. So because the Americans can come up the coast here and land up here as well, right? But that's pretty secure though. Like that's got 9 ground units on Vladivostok there, and 4 planes, right? So I don't think that like they just don't have the transports to attack them. So it's pretty secure over there. I managed to get 3 guys down to here, and these guys I didn't put any more down there yet because I've got the start of a defense there. So in the back here, like with Stalingrad, I put the maximum amount of people down there. There's 5 there. I only put 1 back here in Ural, but also 5 here on Moscow, and I put the tank here because we got this up here, right? These guys, like I was mentioning, I managed to rail 1 guy over to here, and then put the maximum amount here, 5, and then everybody else is just spread out where I could put them, right? Like I did put 5 on this factory here. I put 3 dudes and 2 guns, and then I've tried to spread the planes out. Like there's 4 planes there. There's 4 planes there. There's 4 planes there. There's 3 planes there. That way, America's got the bomb right now. No matter where they drop it, I don't think that they'll be getting into any planes. Like they might kill a plane or 2 at the very most if they get a really lucky roll. They did go after this cruiser here and take that out. Took a damage on the battleship rather than losing anything, and got some subs out there. Geez, I should have convoyed that and I didn't. Oops. Anyway, forgot about that. But anyway, these guys here, they're in here now. So I was gonna go into there, like blitz into there, but there just wasn't a lot to blitz with. There was only I could have done a tank and a mech there, and that's it, right? So I thought I might as well do that. But when you look at it though, the French income went way down, right? Like the French income's only at 16 now, and the British income is down under 30. So if I was to buy a nuclear weapon now, then dividing them by 5, it's going to go down by a lot, right? So it wouldn't be hard to make France surrender, for one thing, right? So maybe that's what I should be doing, is instead of wasting my units attacking France after this, I should buy a bomb, bolster again like I did, and then drop a bomb on Paris and make them surrender, because I'm pretty sure I can keep them under 20. So I need to roll a 4 or more, but then there's the radiation marker, so a 3 or more, and there you go, right? No more French guys. So maybe that's what I'll do. Anyway, it's the Allies' turn coming up. So I got the American moves all ready to go. I was going to keep you along for this one. So I wanted to show you here, the Americans went up 1 in Chile. They didn't get their roll in Brazil or Sweden or Argentina, but they did get Turkey. So they replaced all the units on the board for the Turks. And speaking of Turkey, look who showed up. Happy New Year!
Hey,
Panzer King. So Panzer King is taking over the Russians, and I am going to be the Allies. But the reason I wanted to get you here for this, here, take that and show them where the atomic bomb is being dropped. Here you go. Drop that for me.
So it's going to be here in Eastern Germany.
So count up the number of units that are in there.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
9. That's it?
That's it. 9 units. 5 ground units and 4 aerial units.
2, 3, 4. Okay. And that is the defender's choice for casualties. So 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Here we go. Go with my lucky Amazon dice. You better be lucky. Ooh, look at that. 1, 2, 3. Just 3.
3 hits? Yeah.
3 hits, yep. And I'm going to max damage that major factory.
Major factory as you're running, okay.
Okay, so so you take, just set her down, yeah. Take 3 hits.
Okay, we'll take the infantry, which is 3. No retaliatory strike, I guess?
Nope, nothing, nope.
Right. Okay, good.
But you can put one of those radiation markers on, take the bomb off.
Perfect. Okay.
So that territory is worth 1 less now. You just throw that guy back on London, get him out of the way. Okay, and then, oh shit, I forgot. Damn it. Oh well, my fault. Okay, so now I've got the heavy bomber here. He's going against those guys. Heavy bomber's 3 dice? I think so, isn't it? Carpet bombing?
I think it's 3 dice, yes, I believe. I think you're right.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll just make sure. It's been a while since I played version 2. Air units. Tech advances. Yeah, 3Ds. Oh, 3D6? Oh, not strategic bombing. Yeah, okay. So 3 dice.
No fight back.
At 2.
See what you can get.
Yeah, I purposely went there because he didn't have any guns. 1 hit. Right on.
Okay.
That is a tank. Okay. You can just put that guy back too if you want.
Yeah,
Get him out of your way.
I'll take that guy off.
Okay, what else do I got? Okay, I got that Navy up there as well. And I forgot to bring in my fighter, but that's what happens when you...
In the Danish Straits?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I've got 2 subs, 2 destroyers,
Against
and a tactical bomber.
Destroyer and cruiser. Okay.
So 2 subs, 2 destroyers, and a tactical bomber, okay? The subs are these ones.
Yep.
Destroyers, tactical bomber. Oh! Where am I? Damn forgot all of my air power.
But you got this tactical bomber in there, right?
Yeah. No, I meant to bring these two and that one, but that's okay. My mistake. Okay, here we go. So one hit, no hits. This is a targeted hit.
Okay.
So I will take out a cruiser.
Okay.
And then you lose one more.
And that's the destroyer. Transport doesn't fight back. So it's just one roll for the destroyer, I guess, eh?
Is that all you had was 3 things there?
There's 3 and
okay.
one was the transport, yeah.
Good thing I didn't worry about the other. Here, I'll get you some dice.
Okay. Alright, so basically it's 1d12. And we got a 9, which I do believe is not a hit.
No, and you also got a cruiser.
Oh, so the cruiser does fight back too?
Yeah.
As well?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Okay.
It's just a targeted hit. I mean, I get to choose a casualty.
And
there you go.
that is a hit. Okay.
So I will lose. I'll lose one of the subs.
Yeah.
Here, just throw it over here. Nope, I don't need your Russian stuff. Get you stinking commies out of here. Okay, what else we got? Okay, you can just set the thing down here now.
Okay. The Battle of Turkey, or the Black Sea.
Yeah, because the Americans just took Turkey. That opened up the Dardanelles Straits there, so the Americans were able to squeeze in there. So what do we got here? We've got one sub. Okay, we'll use that. Actually, let's use this one. And we have 2 destroyers, and we have 2 cruisers. And we have here, let's just start with that. Oh wait, there's that. Okay, here we go. I'm going to roll everything but the fighter and the tactical bomber, okay? Because that's getting me too many colors
Yeah.
to
Do
remember.
the subs get first strike at all?
Don't you have a destroyer?
Yes, I do, and you have one too. Yeah.
So none. Okay, here we go. But my 2 planes here were carrier based. If this was version 3, then I wouldn't be able to shoot at your subs. But because it is version 2. As long as they came from a carrier, right?
Yeah.
Didn't matter how far. So, that's a hit. That's a hit. That's a hit. What was this guy? Well, that was a sub. This was a... Damn, I missed with with that thing. Okay, so then I got 2 more.
Yeah.
So I've got a fighter, hit, and a tactical bomber, miss. So I got 4 hits on you.
Okay.
None of them targeted.
Can the battleship take one, I guess? Right?
You got a battleship? Oh yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yep, battleship can.
Okay. So we'll do that. We'll take 1 hit on there, and then I guess we'll take 2 on the submarine and the destroyer. Right?
Good.
Okay. And we have 1 hit,
Okay.
2 hits, 3 hits, 3 hits total.
So did you lose your subs?
I lost my subs, my destroyer, and battleship is damaged.
Okay, so 3 hits. Okay. So I got 2 cruisers and my planes left. All right. So 2 cruisers. And that.
The battleship goes down 1 for damage, right?
Huh?
Being damaged, the battleship goes down 1 from 7 to
Yep.
6? Yeah, okay, good.
Okay, here we go. Just 1 hit, I think. Yep, just 1 hit.
Okay, 1 hit, and I'll take that on the destroyer.
That's cruiser.
Or, sorry, cruiser. Yep, and
6 and 7.
yep. So we'll roll. Well, actually, we got 2 6s, and they're both misses.
Ooh. Dodge the bullet. Gotcha.
Okay, and the battleship will retaliate, and it's 1 hit.
Alrighty.
So the Black Sea's fleet is no more.
I think I'll lose the cruiser. Okay, so these guys come back. There we go. Oh, I just gotta land this thing too. Okay, so what else we got? Anything over here?
So we did that attack. You did the carpet bombing.
I think so, eh?
Black Seas.
Okay, so we got this battle over here then.
Yep.
So I got 2 subs, 2 cruisers, 2 destroyers.
I got a destroyer and 2 subs.
And okay, so there's that. Okay, so white and purple. The white one is the destroyer. The purple is the.
Yep.
Oh, look at that. Not destroyer. I mean fighter. The 2 white ones are the 2 fighters, and the purple one is the tactical bomber. These other ones are pretty much color coded with the dice. Okay, so that's a miss. Those are misses. A whole lot of freaking misses there. So this was a tactical bomber. Holy crap, just 1 hit. Wait a minute, what's this? Oh yeah, that's a hit. Yeah, 2 hits on you.
2 hits, okay. Well, I'll take them on the subs, I guess.
Okay.
I'll roll. And we have... Those are just regular submarines, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So we got misses all around.
Okay. Gotcha. I riddled you with bullets.
And the destroyer is a miss.
All right. And take your stinking transport. So this guy goes back to Japan. These guys land back on the boat. Here we go. And bring it around here. So these guys can go 3. 1, 2, 3. And they're going to bring the Marines on the transport. There we go. Show you what the West Coast looks like. Not much over there, but it doesn't need to be, because Russia does not have any transports now. So I missed doing a couple of things there. It's a big turn, right? Lots of, not used to having, like, I'm gonna have to order some more American roundels. Not used to using this many American pieces in the game. Usually by the time the Americans get in, it's just at the very end, and then you only use a few pieces, right? You just use an infantry, like Marines and stuff. So I'm just gonna do some non-combat movement, and I'll bring you back at the end of this round. Okay, so that took a long time, man. Holy crap! When you're doing the allies all by yourself like that, and it's a new game to you, takes a while. But what happened? So the British, they took out all but one of the subs up there in the Atlantic, as you can see there. They had to use carrier-based aircraft in order to do it, but one of them managed to escape. They did a carpet bomb, which was unsuccessful. And basically they were just getting their ships from down here and down here. They're bringing them up. So you see where that marker is in there, with the battleship. That's this group of boats right here. These are all British boats right here. So they got tons of transports and stuff. And then this marker here, this French marker, that's where all that British stuff is Picardia or whatever. So that's where all the British stuff is. Looks like he's about to drop a bomb on Paris there, so he could be making them surrender this turn. So that was the British turn. Yeah, that's basically all they did was stuff up there. Then the French managed to take out everybody that was in here of the Russians, so that the Italians only had to walk up there with their black shirts. Plus, they managed to take out the territory here that the Americans and the British had carpet bombed. There was a tank and a heavy tank left there that the French took out. And then they declared war on Iran because they had I could have bought better stuff for them, but instead I just bought infantry, and I declared war on Iran so that the British could start moving through there. So once I did that, then they became Russian, of course, right? But with then the British or the FEC took one of them out. So that's all the FEC has done is put mostly fast movers in here, and they're beginning to move this way towards Iran, and it looks like he's going to try to take out my Turkey there, which is a surprise. And then these guys down here, these guys are also moving towards Iran. So they only purchased this and this, and they're moving. And as far as the Chinese Civil War, I'll let you take a look there. Like, not much has happened. You win some, you lose some, right? It's all basically just infantry and artillery, and not much more than that. But I couldn't for the life of me tell you exactly what happened up there. I just know we did a lot of rolling. Anyway, so that's what's happened in this round. Are you gonna what are you gonna do?
As far as
First, what are you gonna do first?
So influencing first, is that what we do first?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. I put the dice down on all the nations I'd like to influence.
Okay.
There's 10 of them, so they're all through the map right now. So we can do that first.
Yeah.
If you want.
Sure.
Okay.
Tell you what, while we're on camera, why don't you drop that bomb?
Okay, let's do that.
Let's see what happens there.
Okay.
So we've got the bomb on Paris there. How many things are in there? We got 1, 2.
You got 5 infantry, 1 anti-aircraft gun, a fighter, a tactical bomber. That's all I see.
And this guy here.
Oh, and an American jet. Yeah.
So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So just roll 1 dice.
Nope, you can roll 9 dice.
9 dice. And pick them all.
And you gotta hit 4s. And then I choose the casualties.
Okay, so that is 9 dice right there. And we have 1, 2. 2 hits in total.
2 hits? Okay. So I'm gonna take off the anti-aircraft gun, since that's not doing me any good. And I'll take off a dude. Now, you get to choose which factory to damage. Remember, if you're trying to take over France, well, I guess that would just be a minor factory to you anyways, but that would be a minor factory with 20 damage on it.
But I'll do max damage on the Paris factory.
You will?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Sure, sounds good.
Okay.
And then now, you've got to roll up my home country now. So, we look up here, and that's 19 divided by 5 is only 3. Plus, yeah, so plus he's got a radiation marker there now. So he needs to get a 3 because he has to roll above a 2. So this is for a French surrender.
7.
7. So France has surrendered. Now, before we take off here, let's just do the French boats as well, okay? Let me just get the thing here so I remember. I think 1 to 6 they go to the Allies. 7 and 8 they're scuttled, and then 9 to 12 you get them. Let me just confirm that though. Pretty sure that's what it is. Yeah, 1 to 6 they join my alliance. 7 to 8 they're scuttled. 9 to 12 you get them.
Yep.
So start with this destroyer over there.
You want me to roll?
Roll the dice. Yeah.
Okay. We'll take French blue for them, and we will do the destroyer. And you get it.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'll remember that. Okay, now we got a destroyer in here.
Okay, we'll do
And
the
a cruiser.
destroyer and English Channel. One ship at a time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we got a Russian, so that's Russian now.
Okay, and then cruiser.
Cruiser. That becomes you.
Okay.
Okay. And
in here we've got a transport.
Okay, let's roll the transport. Transport is 6, so that's you.
Okay, it's me.
Cruiser. That's 6. That's also you.
This is the big one because you
And
get the planes on top of them too.
9.
9. Ooh, that's
Scuttle.
you.
Well, no,
No,
Yeah,
that's
is it
you.
9?
7,
Oh.
8 scuttle.
Okay.
So this becomes Russian.
Yep.
Okay. And so you got that, and you got that cruiser up there, and I get the.
I got the destroyer. You got the cruiser.
Oh, okay.
That's how we do it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's how it's done. I actually had to call Robert in the meantime to find out, because we were wondering, what if I put on a bunch of British units into France? Because what happens now with the French surrender is all the French units come off, and the Russians take control of the French home country. But I was wondering, what should I do, like in the previous turn with the British units? Should I be there, because I didn't want to lose them, right? And so what he said, that's a heavy carrier.
Oh, it doesn't matter. Okay, sorry.
Yeah. Anyway, so he said, no, you would just stay there. So that would be a contested territory, like it becomes a British territory. So the Russians wouldn't get the territory where the British are. And so that's how that's going to work. And then with the boats, wondered about the planes, and yes, you do get the planes on the boats. So anyway, that's France surrendering here. So you look at all these Russian pies here, and okay, I guess France has fallen. Yeah, they have. It's funny though that Paris hasn't fallen, because there was an American jet fighter on Paris. So he didn't get that one, and he didn't get the other one there where the British are. If I'd have known this before, maybe I would have populated the whole place, right? But anyway, what's done is done. And he's also gone up to Norway there, and he's taken out Istanbul. He's massing on the border over here. Taking out Turkey looks like it's going to be pretty easy for him. It was a distraction, though. I did draw a number of units down that way. So that's a plus there, because now I've got units, lots of units over here in Spain, and units coming across, because really it's Europe that we're fighting over, right? That's what we want to prevent him from taking, is Europe. And he didn't do anything over there with the Russians. So you saw him drop the nuclear bomb there, and the atom bomb, and
Northern Italy.
And he did take northern Italy as well, and plus he got all those territories in there. He did make attacks on them, but then he just stopped his attacks after one round, because when he's fighting against French guys, those French guys are going to die anyway, right? So there's no point in attacking them. He did lose 1 or 2 units doing that. Influencing. You tried to do a lot of influencing, didn't you? But so he moved along the influencing thing. I tell you what I'm finding here is this is the first time playing the influence. I ran out of roundos a long time ago. So Iraq, he's up on Iraq. He went up one on Latin America, and Transjordan. He's on the board for Transjordan as well. So the technology, he went up in he did go up in long range aircraft and improved shipyards. So now, like the amount of money that he has on him there, look at that stack of money over there. Just unreal. It's 150 something. Oh, and then you have the other one. So $159, I think. Holy
With the
crap.
French income and the bonuses.
If he had more strategic bombers, he could buy more bombs. Anyway, so I got my work cut out for me here. Okay, so I'm just about halfway through the game now. Panzer King was here yesterday. That was just a couple seconds ago for you, but for me that was yesterday. All I did was I took the Allies' turn this, and since he's been gone. Now this is taking me longer than I thought to do all of these nations by myself. Anybody that's played this game by themselves will know exactly what I mean. Not just playing the game. Like if I was playing a normal game, I would be more uh, intuitive as to what I need to do next. But in this game here that I've never seen before, it's taking me a long time, and I'm considering all the different options and everything because there's a lot of them. So one of the interesting things um, when France surrendered there, you see the Americans and the British came in, so they're taking their territories now. It's not like the regular game where if you surrendered by conventional means, you would be liberating those French territories. In this game, when they were forced to surrender because of a nuclear explosion, um, they don't come back, and so you take over their territories. So that's giving the other allies more money. And as you can see, like Russia's not about to break out anywhere. There's no way. This is the only boats they have left on the board here is a damaged battleship and a destroyer. So there's no way that they could make it down there to defend those places or anything. Not that they would want to, but their fight is here in Europe, and also in the back door that I was telling you about a while ago, like what I thought I would do. Um, it's. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this off here. Like I'm not going to play any more of this game because version 3 is coming out at the end of this month, and I want to be done this expansion set by then. And I've still got at least one more, maybe two more games to play. Like I for sure want to play the Axis Split. I'm going to do that next weekend. I'm hoping that Panzer King can come over and play that with me. And then if I still have time before V3 comes in, then I want to play Operation Unthinkable, which I think will be a lot like this one. Of course, it's the same type of scenario. It's just the Allies are going to get the first punch instead of the Russians. But the reason I'm cutting it off now is because of that, and because also I don't really want to know how this ends. Like I want to play this against another person. I've seen enough now to know what I should do and what I shouldn't do. Like for instance, what I think probably if I was the Russian player I would do is I would go after the UK now with a bomb, because if they didn't have the ability to take the UK out of this game, then they're going to lose for sure. I can see that because the Americans are coming over in force, and the fact that they don't have to just drop infantry off and Marines is making a big difference, because they can come in with heavy tanks, and they've got heavy artillery and the advanced mechanized infantry, and the British have all those things as well, right? Plus the Americans have their own nuclear bombs and stuff. Panzer King was not paying down the damage on the factories. So this factory's got 20 damage on it, and that's the only major factory he's got in Europe over there. This one here, where the fight is also the closest to him, he hasn't paid down either. So both of those factories have 20 damage to them, and everything else around there is just a one factory, like a small factory, minor factory that you can only put one thing at. And so it looks like he's got more in here because he's got quite a few planes, but he's actually down 4 planes from the last round. And the Allies, like I think it's the Allies have 20 planes and the Russians have 14 planes now, and then 3 bombers to 1. I'm talking about strategic bombers, not these bombers. I'm counting these with the planes. So the Allies are slowly gaining more strength. I think the only thing that could save the Russians is the nuclear bomb. You look there, the British are up to 39. Now they're going to keep getting more and more, I think, because of the 1-2 punch. Plus, one thing that I haven't done yet, and I'm thinking about it now, why wasn't I doing that, is I could just lend lease. The Americans got tons of money. Lend lease money to the Ottawa factory here, and then the British could be putting more on. So it's not just the Americans coming across. Like they pretty much have their transport chuck going now, right? They can just go back and forth and drop stuff on here, and walk it up through Spain rather than having 3 transports. So they've already got tons of transports. Like the British here, they've got tons of stuff as well. Lots of bombarding. Like when I came in here, I had, I think, 9 shots at them, bombardment shots. Or yeah, nine bombardment shots when I took this territory over. So lots of firepower for them. Like I said, I think the nuclear bomb is the only thing that can save them. But then, I kind of wonder if maybe it's not going to be unbalanced for the Russians that way, because once they're finished with that, let me take you down to the other side of the board here. I didn't play the Chinese Civil War today. It would not look much different than what it looks right now. It's just basically these guys kill a couple guys and then those guys kill a couple guys, right? This hasn't changed at all over here. Just the Americans moving up and that's all. But now here, these guys have got a shot going. I think what I would do is put a naval base here so that they can go here and then back, and so they're getting stuff up here, right? Now you look at what I've got here. This is how much money the FEC are getting. They're getting enough for a dude, a heavy tank, medium tank, and 2 advanced mechanized infantry every single turn. And they've got a major factory to put them on. So from there to there, Tehran, right, and then beyond, right. So they've got it'll look like this. See, this was the last purchase, right? So there to there to there, like it's just going to keep doing that. But I mean, once the UK surrenders, if they were like they're at 39 IPP right now, so it might take two bombs to get them surrender, or maybe even 3. Maybe that's just the luck of the draw. But if they were able to get them to surrender this coming turn, then there's still enough time. They could bring a strategic bomber down, like maybe even buy a strategic bomber, put it on Stalingrad. They could have it down here in 2 turns, right? So it'd be easy to make these guys surrender, right? Because their income is only in the 20s. So even if it goes up slightly, then they're with putting the radiation marker on, they would only need to roll a 4 in order to make the FEC surrender. So I think that's the only thing that could save them. Now, the reason I say it might be unbalanced that way is because, like, all of these guys' incomes are broken up. These guys got income, these guys got income, those guys got income, those guys got income, those guys got income. But these guys, the Russians, it's all one income, right? So it's a huge amount. Like right now, if I was to drop a bomb on their home country, then there's already one on their home country. So another one would give me 2 to the dice roll. So that's 18. So I need to roll a 16, and you can't with a 12-sided dice, right? So you can see, like I would have to take out half of Europe first to get his income down, and have a few more pies over there, right? And so that's why I don't really want to keep going right now, because I want to try this where I'm playing it against another player. Like I found that since I played the Allies and somebody else was playing the Russians, that now I have a favorite, right? Before it was just I was playing both of them just to see what would happen. But now I kind of want myself to win, right? Like it's just natural to want to do that. So now I'm trying to see how I can win with the Allies, and and I'm not really too excited about playing the Russians. So when I get a real player to play against with this scenario, then I'm going to try it over again. Now that I've tried the first 4 turns and see how it goes, right? Seeing what I would need to do as the Russians and what I would need to do as the Allies. Yeah, it's been really interesting. What I really like about this, more than anything, let me move this around a bit again. Not much happened over here, just the Americans took one of the spots over here. One of the things that happened since I seen you, or you seen the board, was the British rolled for and got Greece. So they were able to take the stuff they had and take out this from the Russians. I keep wanting to say the Germans, right? Because usually it's the Germans that you're fighting right in Europe there, but it's the Russians. But anyway, what I really like about this is that I'm playing my favorite game, so I know the rules and everything, and I love playing this game, but it's different. Like there's a curveball now, right? Like the teams are different, and the goals are different, and everything is different. Yet it's the same game, and so this is a brilliant expansion in that. I hope that the Axis split is just as good, and the other one, Operation Unthinkable, is just as good, because this is a really good Operation Pluto is really good, and it's been fun to play, right? Like a lot of fun to play, and challenging me again. Not that I wasn't challenged playing this game before. It's just that. Like I've been playing these games for years, right? Going back to Axis and Allies, and uh, and and so it was always the same teams, right? Always the same goals. And I've talked about this earlier in the video, but this is so different. It's so like odd, right? How you do it? Like there's no way that Anzac could possibly be anything happen to them. Like even I think if he was to maybe if he put if he he's going to have to develop jet bombers, the Russians. Maybe if he put them on as close as he could, then he could make the Aussies surrender. But that would be tough to do because you've also got the Americans over here, right? So almost impossible. So Aussies, like, what do, right? You know, I didn't know what to do with them, so I just started sending stuff up here. Like they've already lost a tank in here. They almost took Tehran out. But they lost their tank. But they're just going to keep shucking planes and ground units up here. I think I'll be able to put up an infantry and an medium armor every single turn for them. And like I said, these guys, you see what they're bringing every single turn. So yeah, like really, really interesting that way. Really interesting for the Russians because they're a huge power in this game. Like they got so much power. You look at the stack of money over there, you see the purple chips on the bottom there. Those are 25s. So he's got $159 over there to spend, right? He could buy himself a couple of nuclear bombs, drop one in Europe there where there's lots of units there. Like maybe drop them. Oh, I guess he couldn't. He's going to have to buy himself another bomber. He's only got one bomber. But I mean, he could do that, right? He could buy himself another bomber and be dropping 2 bombs a turn with the amount of money that he has. But I am also knocking him down in money. Like he's gone down since the Allies started. I think he was 109 or 110 up here at the end of his turn, and now he's down to there just because the Allies have been able to take so much territory off him. Anyway, it's been really, really fun playing this, and I got to congratulate Robert. It's been such a good set that he came out with. We talked to him yesterday on the phone while Panzer King was here, just to ask him a few questions about the French surrender there. He texted me today. He's going to rewrite the version 2 rules because him and I, working through this, have come up with so much different, more stuff. There's a couple of things that are different, but most of it is clarifying the rules so that when you read through them, then you'll be able to pick it up easily. And of course, the V3 rules for this game, or for this expansion set, aren't out yet. So those will be new, and those will be pretty clear but the first time out. Anyway, there's not much more to tell you here. Like I've already, I would just be repeating myself at this point. The other thing that has been really interesting for me here, I'll just mention that, and I think I had before, is how deficient I am in what I need to play this particular game. And I can imagine it would be the same with the other two in this set as well. Like here, I'm having to use these roundels instead of the nice thick roundels from HBG, right? So I've already got a couple of packs of the Russian ones ordered, and I got another pack of the American ones ordered. The ones that I'm running out of. So so by the time I play this one again, I should have hopefully enough Russian rounds. And it's not just that, but I hadn't played diplomacy before, so I needed I needed more roundels just to play diplomacy, right? You need a ton of roundels for the tech on this because each nation has a lot of tech. And then like there's German ones on here. That's just because I ran out of Russian ones. So the German ones that are on the board are actually Russian. But I've got lots of German ones here. Probably gonna need a couple more German ones for over there though. But anyway, just finding out a lot of the stuff that I'm deficient. I did take a look on HPG's site today. These things here, this is my favorite sculpt. This is the tortoise tank. And he's got these on sale right now. You can buy 5 of these for $8.95. I said, I almost bought 5 of them. I thought, geez, what am I doing that for? I've already got 5 of them, right? So these make a great heavy tank. They actually built 3 of these during the war, but none of them made it off the island. They didn't know how they were going to do that. They're so big, like the turret doesn't move. They're so big that they didn't know how they were going to get it across a bridge because they were so heavy and everything, right? So like it was fine for going on flat ground around England, but it remains to be seen how well it would have worked in the war. But anyway, just thought I'd let you know that because a lot of people ask me about this. They see them on my table, and that's the A39 Tortoise, I believe. So that's in the 3D printed section for British units, just for your information. Anyway, thank you for joining me to this point. There will be more videos coming out in this series. Even if I only get one more done, at some point I'll do another one. Like at some point I'll do Operation Unthinkable. Might get done this month. It might not get done until summertime or something. We've got something planned up here this spring. I'm not going to tell you about that just yet, but there's an event for Global War that's going to be in Prince George this spring. So I'll let you know about that later when we finalize things, and maybe 1 or 2 of you can make up here. I know it's a long ways out of the way, and we're not looking for casual players. We're only looking for good players, like ninja level, because we want some good players up here. Get a couple of tables going, but we'll talk about that later. Anyway, so that's the end of this video. So take care, everyone. General Hand Grenade out.